that mean it's on? All right. I'm gonna wait for the nod. We good? Look at those 2 thumbs up. Nice. I am so excited to be here. This is my first Connect conference. We've had a blast. I brought my mommy and my daddy, so they pay for things, and they have enjoyed it as well. So it's been a lot of fun. My name is Hannah Bradford. I don't know a lot of people here, which has been super fun to get to meet a lot of people. I saw several people that usually come to the Transformed Ladies Conference, and they asked me, they said, "Are you singing today?" And I was like, I hope not. I hope that's not in the description. But I am excited to talk to you today about a topic that Alan and I actually were just generally having a discussion at his Connect booth, either at TLC or CYC or something. We were just talking, and he goes, "This is a good topic. I'm going to write you down for the Connect conference." And then he left. And I was like, I don't know what that is. So I'm so glad that God paved the way for me to be able to be at this awesome conference this weekend. Today is my first day of school. We had Institute this morning. I won a gift card. I don't know what it's to. I'll figure it out tomorrow when I go back to school. But I did not know that I was going to be speaking on the first day of school. I may be unemployed tomorrow. But I'm excited to kick off the school year. This is my 13th year. I'm at Muscle Shoals. I teach show choir and chorus and all the performing arts things, and I love my job and I love my kids. And so I have to contain it this time of year when people are like, "Are you ready to go back?" And I'm like, yeah. Because all the other teachers are like, "No, summer was so short." And it was, but now I'm at the point where I'm like, all right, I got my shows, let's go, you know. So I'm excited to get back tomorrow. I'm originally from Hazel Green. It's right outside of Huntsville, Alabama. And I didn't think there would be Hazel Green people here today. So please don't take offense to the Hazel Green stories. Hazel Green has 1 stoplight. I think we've upgraded to 2 since 20 years ago. We are known for growing cotton, which everyone did, and people drove tractors to school, and that was not my life. And so I was kind of outcasted. We did wear shoes, despite what anybody thought, although I will tell you, I don't wear them when I speak, you know, to honor the culture. So we do wear shoes, but there were lots of stories growing up in Hazel Green, and one of them I'm going to share with you to kind of kick off our topic today. So my aunt is classic Hazel Green. I remember growing up, going to her house. She had a life-size cardboard cutout of Dale Earnhardt right by her TV in the living room. And we'd go over there, and Dale would just stare at us while we ate. And one day, we were at my Mama Kay's house, and all the cousins were there together. And my cousin Josh is 2 years younger than me. I don't know, he was probably 2, but I'm old enough to remember it vaguely, and it may just be from stories that I've heard. But all of our parents were there, and they were playing rook and drinking coffee, and we were playing with dolls and with teddy bears. And Josh had this teddy bear that he was playing with, and all of a sudden he just starts screaming bloody murder, and I'm looking at him thinking, what is wrong with you, you know? And his mom came in there screaming or whatever. He had stuck a teddy bear eye in his ear, like deep enough where you couldn't get it out and they couldn't get something out. So she's picking him up, she's running through the ER, and in the most Hazel Green way possible, she says, "I need help, he's got an eye in his ear." And so apparently that's what you do to get back quicker at the ER. So anyways, they got the eye out of his ear. He was doing good. But the moral of that story is, anytime you buy a teddy bear for the safety of your children, you should go quality. Let's talk quality. Everybody ever been to a Build-A-Bear workshop? Yeah? Yeah, so you have kids too? Okay. So that was my kids' Lads to Leaders. If you do Lads to Leaders, we'll get a Build-A-Bear, which is terrible, but now they love to do Lads to Leaders, and I don't have to buy them anything. So the way Build-A-Bear works is you take the bear. It's like a bear skin. It looks like something out of a horror film, or like if you've ever been hunting with someone. And so you take the skin, Then you pick out its costume. So like you pay an extra $20 for like the fairy theme. And then you have to accessorize. You get the shoes, you get the wand, you get the hat. And then you take it up to this lady who literally her job description is putting stuffing in the bear. And so she puts the stuffing, she's hitting the little sewing thing, and the bear is filling up, and my kids are jumping. And then she hands you this heart. You take the heart, you have to make a wish, and then you rub it, and then you stick it in the bear, and the bear has surgery, and then you get this bear. And $75 later, you get to go home. And so we have several Build-A-Bears at our house. There was an experiment done at a college, actually in Nashville, and it was a Christian college. And the professor did 100 surveys for his students. And in those surveys, he asked them to pick their preferences. So this is how would you vote, in an election? What party do you think you most represent? Or how were you raised? Or what is your standard of living? Or what is your favorite food? Or in this situation, how would you respond? All of these things. And so everybody put down their answers. The professor gathered them, did the data on a spreadsheet, and it was so different. So then the next day, the 100 students came back, and he said, okay, today we're going to do the same questions, but you have to answer them as if Jesus was answering them. So all the students are going through answering them. What political party would you vote for? What's your favorite vegetable? What do you consider like the worst sin? What would you consider the best? What do you think in this situation, how would you respond? All these things. So the professor put them right next to the questions they answered about themselves, all of them very, very different. But the weirdest thing was when he put them next to the person that answered them, they were exactly the same, almost completely across the board. So even though everybody's was so very different, this was things that they believed their Jesus possessed, and it matched their own beliefs. So who they liked, Jesus liked. Who they voted for, Jesus voted for. Let's open up to Romans 12:2. This was the key verse this weekend. And it says, don't live the way this world lives. Let your way of thinking be completely changed. And then you will be able to test what God wants for you. And you will agree that what he wants is right. His plan is good, his plan is pleasing, and his plan is perfect. A little disclaimer real quick I always give people. I read from the New International Reader's Version. I came to a Bible Bowl competition in Henderson, Tennessee when I was like 10 years old. And I bought a New International Reader's Version that was ages 6 to 10. And like I never got an adult one. And I love this Bible. So if you're looking for one that puts it like ages 6 to 10, I highly recommend this one. So that's what I'm reading from today, if it seems a little bit off. So what's happening, and this is where I kind of coined this phrase in my conversation with Alan, was our church is struggling with a Build-A-Bear Jesus concept. And you know what he responded back to me? So is mine. Our society is struggling with a Build-A-Bear Jesus concept. And it's basically, we take the qualities we like from Jesus, but the qualities that kind of make us uncomfortable or require a lot of change, we just kind of do away with that. You can watch so many preachers that have a whole 24-hour channel on the Roku channel that's all about a customizable Jesus. Okay? So if we customize our Build-A-Bear Jesus, he's usually not hard, he's usually not dirty, he's not confrontational, but most importantly, he's not real. That's not really Jesus. The real Jesus is not made in our image. I think I'm supposed to be clicking. I'll be honest with you, I don't remember what my slides are. My Jesus thinks like me, talks like me, and believes just like me. Yeah, okay, there we are. Thank you so much. Yeah, the real Jesus is not made in our image. Let's go to Colossians 1. And I'm going to start in verse 15. The Son is the exact likeness of God who can't be seen. The Son is first, and he is over all creation. All things were created in him. He created everything in heaven and on earth. He created everything that can be seen and everything that can't be seen. He created kings, powers, rulers, and authorities. All things have been created by him and for him. Before anything was created, he was already there. He holds everything together. That's Jesus. That's the real Jesus. A couple of, I'd say probably 2 years ago, our preacher, he's not our preacher anymore, but he still goes to church with us. He is over a huge mission in Ukraine. It's Jeff Abrams. If you've ever heard of Jeff Abrams, he does so much with Ukraine. And so he was there for a while. He was actually in Poland. Anyways, we had a guest speaker who had just retired from a church, and he came and he spoke for Larry while he was, or for Jeff while he was gone. And he got up there, and the title of the lesson was, "Are You Ready?" And I know you ladies have heard millions of lessons titled, "Are You Ready?" It was awesome, but it was not what we have usually heard. Because if you have visitors in your church, a lesson on "Are You Ready?" is terrifying. It's not a whole lot welcoming about "Are you ready?" If we were to die today, what's the reality of what will happen in our current state of life? So after that was over, my husband and I were like, that was really good. Like, I hadn't heard that in a while, and that really, convicted me to think of a lot of different things that I need to change in my life. Well, my father-in-law was an elder at the time, and he was sitting right in front of us. And one of the church leaders came up to my father-in-law, and he said, "That man is not allowed in the pulpit anymore because our congregation does not need to hear that lesson." And it was like, why? I mean, truly, we had no idea why. But as a millennial, I can tell you, because these are my friends, they don't want to hear lessons that aren't feel-good lessons. But if we don't teach the whole truth, it's customizable and it's not truth at all. This includes to our girls, and we'll get to that in just a minute. Our job is not to mold Jesus, but for Jesus to mold us. Go to Mark 10, if you don't mind. We're going to start in verse 17. As Jesus started on his way, a man ran up to him. He fell on his knees before God. "Good teacher," he said, "what must I do to receive eternal life?" "Why do you call me good?" Jesus answered. "No one is good except God. You know what the commandments say. Do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not be a false witness, do not cheat, honor your mother and father." "Teacher," he said, "I've obeyed all those commandments since I was a boy." And Jesus looked at him and loved him. "You are missing one thing," he said. "Go and sell everything you have. Give the money to those who are poor. You will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me." The man's face fell. He went away sad because he was very rich. Jesus looked around. He said to his disciples, "How hard it is for rich people to enter God's kingdom." The disciples were amazed at his words, but Jesus said again, "Children, how hard it is to enter God's kingdom. Is it hard for a camel to go through the eye of a needle? It is even harder for someone who's rich to enter God's kingdom." The disciples were even more amazed. They said to each other, "Then who can be saved?" And Jesus looked at them and said, "With people this is impossible, but not with God. All things are possible with God." The rich young ruler had his idea of who Jesus was. He followed the commandments as he thought Jesus wanted him to. But Jesus also says, you have to love, you have to give. It's part of the process. And giving up, sacrificing anything is hard. It's our human nature for that to be hard. But that's what Jesus is calling. We can go to the next slide, I think. Yeah. All right, picking and choosing your Jesus dulls the gospel. If you customize Jesus, the gospel is not really the gospel. Let's turn to 2 Timothy 4. Celine, you're nodding back there. I'm just kidding. I told my mom when we were eating lunch today, I said, this is hard right after lunch because usually we call it the scuba diver in ladies' classes when they watch speakers. It looks like this. I said, I feel like that's going to be it so they can yawn and nobody can see. All right, 2 Timothy 4:3-4. The time will come when people won't put up with true teaching. Instead, they will try to satisfy their own desires. They will gather a large number of teachers around them. The teachers will say what the people want to hear. The people will turn their ears away from the truth. They will turn to stories that aren't true. That sounds so much like exactly where we are. I'll give you an example. The Christian camp that I go to, I had the pleasure of teaching 12 and 13-year-old girls this year. I think my maturity level's right at theirs. I think that's why I got put there with them. But we did a Q&A one day, and all they wanted to talk about, I'm assuming this is probably happening at several churches nationwide, but all they wanted to talk about was their roles in the church. And not even roles in the church. One of the questions somebody asked, one of the girls asked was, why is it my fault, or why can I not wear a two-piece because my brother is weak, is where it was. And it was, why can I not go swimming in swimsuits I can get the best tan in just because my guy friends in my youth group seem to have an issue. And it was like, I thought she was kidding. And all of her friends were like, yeah. And these are people who have been in the church their whole life. And the simple answer was, because you love him? Like, where did that go? But then it got even further than that. It was questions of, well, the Bible doesn't specifically say that a woman cannot be in the pulpit with men present. And the Bible doesn't say anything about us being able to serve on the Lord's Supper because we're quiet while we serve the Lord's Supper. And they kept going on, and it blew my mind that that's what is being thought of. And maybe it's my fault for not being grateful for all the opportunities God has given women. Maybe I haven't gone to them and said, hey, you do an excellent job with art. If you drew a picture and sent it to one of the widows, that would stay on their refrigerator for years. Or when's the last time you've gotten a group of girls together and had them over at your house for cookies and a Bible study? You're good at that. You're good at hosting events. Do that. But somebody said yesterday, and I couldn't remember who it was, but they talked about if you have to first know Jesus, then when you are so focused on him, that's when you figure out your purpose. So what that tells me with those girls is they don't know Jesus, so they don't have a clue what their purpose is. This was some of the things that they gave me, and some things that I have heard from older women in our congregation. They love the verses like Joel 2:28, your sons and daughters will prophesy, and Galatians 3:28, male and female are one in Christ. Or when Jesus tells Mary Magdalene in John 20:17 and 18, you go to my brothers and tell them this. Rather than the scriptures like 1 Timothy 2, where he says, let a woman learn quietly with all submissiveness. Oh, that was what I learned. Apparently submissiveness is like the new S word. Like you can't say submit without completely turning anybody under the age of 30 off. That was amazing to me. Women should keep silent, 1 Corinthians 4:34. Older women are to train the younger women, Titus 2. And I didn't think that was necessarily a bad thing until one of my besties, Miss Patty, she's 86 at my church, and she said, no, I don't want to teach the younger women. You know how much energy that would take? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back to my pew, Or here's my favorite, your husband will rule over you, Genesis 3:16. Yeah, we don't love those. These girls definitely don't love those. But it's truth. And it's purposeful, and it's beautiful, and it's out of love. And if you know the real Jesus, you know the beauty behind it, and you know your purpose behind all of this. And your purpose is so fulfilling. We justify and manipulate a lot of scripture out of context. often whenever our ideal of what good is comes to God's idea of good and we meet head on and they look different. So we have to drop our idea and join his, knowing it's the best, which means giving up control, which is so hard to do. It's a Christian maturity thing, and some people are going backwards, and I'm guilty many times of going backwards to try to make it meet my own standards. Let's go to Malachi 1:6. I think we talk about this a little bit later too. The movie Mulan, I'm a big Disney person. The movie Mulan used to confuse me because I did not understand her obsessiveness for bringing honor to her ancestors. I didn't know what that meant. But really what the fact was my generation and culture doesn't really understand honor in general. That goes for anything cultural, spiritual, traditional. Honor is something that we really need to circle back around and talk about. And my girls at church will tell you they're sick of hearing about it. But here's what it says in Malachi 1:6. A son honors his father, a slave honors his master. If I am a father, where is the honor I should have? If I am a master, where is the respect you should give me? Says the Lord who rules over all. The house of God should be honored. His way of holy living, he gets to decide that. He's the creator. Our job is to honor it. We can go to the next slide. The whole Jesus calls for the whole surrender. Let's go to Luke 9:23. Check your neighbor, make sure they're alive. Luke 9:23 says, Then he said to all of them, which is like all of us, whoever wants to follow me must say no to themselves. They must pick up their cross every day and follow me. There is no half Jesus that saves you fully. He wants all of you. He wants your love. He wants your loyalty. He wants your habits. He wants your relationships. He wants your finances. He wants your identity. And a lot of that is going out on faith. Because if you're a 13-year-old girl, I live with one of those, your identity is something that is questioned every single day. And I would know, I teach drama for a living. I'm stealing this from my preacher. He told a story. I've always heard Marshall Keeble's stories, and like I can't wait to get to heaven and be like, I feel like I know you, you know. But he was supposed to preach a gospel meeting, and I can't remember where exactly it was. But he got there, he preached the first day, and something happened and he couldn't finish out the week. But there was one lady that apparently snuck out of her house to get here to listen to this gospel meeting. And she sat in the crowd, and after the first day of Marshall's lessons, she was hooked. She wanted this Jesus. She wanted to know about this Jesus. And so when Marshall had to leave, he turned to a guy who was named DeBose Kroom, and he said, I need you to take over my gospel meeting because I got to go, there's an emergency. And DeBose is like, I just graduated Bible school. I can't do it. And Marshall's like, this is your shot. And then he left. And so he also, before he left, he explained to DeBose, there's this lady. Her family's going to be real upset if they know she's here, but she could be such a servant for the kingdom. So DeBose got up there, he spoke the gospel meeting, and he tended to that lady to make sure that she was understanding the word. On that Wednesday night, she had decided that she wanted to be baptized. And so obviously the congregation was thrilled. And before they left the church building to walk down to the creek there in the town, this lady's husband stopped DeBose and said, if you baptize her, I'm going to kill you both. And DeBose just kind of nodded and just kept on walking down. And he got down to the creek. He had several other people he was going to baptize. He baptized all of them. And as it was about time to get to that lady, he noticed the husband walking down to the creek. And DeBose took her hand, because he had decided he was going to baptize her anyways. And he walked her into the creek, and the husband walked in the creek with him. And DeBose baptized this lady, and whenever they came up, her husband struck her on the head with some kind of tool, and it killed her instantly. And he struck DeBose on the head as well, making him mentally disabled for the rest of his life. But that was a sacrifice he was willing to make because he knew what his purpose was, and he knew who his Jesus was. And when you know who you are, you know what to do. And all of the worldly side effects, the what ifs that Satan can put in your mind, they don't matter. They're not as big. This is giving all of yourself to Jesus, knowing what your purpose is. Jesus gave all of himself to us. And in return, we don't just get peace, but we do get purpose. We don't just get comfort, we get correction. And we don't just get grace, we get complete transformation. We can go to the next one. I think this is the last one that I'm talking about today. Jesus will not be customizable. We can't customize Jesus. We've cleared that up pretty good. But he's going to be real close. Let me tell you what I mean by that. He's going to be better than your wildest expectations. If you commit to him, your life will be better than your wildest expectations. Let's go to Romans 8:29. It says, God planned that those he had chosen would become like his son. In that way, Christ will be the first and most honored among many brothers and sisters. Jesus didn't come to be who we want him to be. He came so that we could become who God intended for us to be. Hebrews 13:8 says that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And he is. He's proved that in my life over and over and over. Mom told me this story. We were coming home from somewhere, and we get on these Bible discussions. I did not grow up in a private Bible school. I did not go to college at a private Bible school because my grades were not good enough, and so I had to go to public school. And so a lot of times I feel like I am biblically dumb. You know, I understand the concepts, but when it comes to, I'm enrolled right now at Heritage, getting a master's in biblical education, and it is fascinating, but I feel like I am at the bottom. Like I asked Jeremy Barrier this summer, I was like, what is Greco-Roman? Like that sounds like an insect. You know, like I just feel real dumb. And, but it's fascinating. So Mom and I will have these discussions, and she answers my questions a lot like my ages 6 to 10 Bible. And we were talking about people who have been rebaptized, trying to figure out the mindset, because you do not hear a lot of denominational churches having rebaptisms. It's a lot of times just in the Church of Christ. And I thought, is there something we're missing? Like I understand a lot of the denominations aren't baptizing at all, but you know, like what am I missing here? And Mom said, well, you know, I was rebaptized, and my mind was blown. I was like, do the elders know? You know, like did not know this. And Mom was like, yeah. She said, I was baptized when I was little, just like everybody else in the youth group. And then she said she was at work. Like I was born. I feel like I didn't even know you. I was born at the time. So Mom was working, and this lady at her church had just gotten baptized over the weekend. And Mom said she came to work and everything about her was different. Like she was this optimist, and she couldn't wait to tell people what Jesus did for her. And she was very specific. You know, he took me, who has done blank, 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 and he's taken me and he's given me these opportunities and he's given me salvation. And like, I am free. Like people talk anxiety. I don't know what that is. And Mom's watching her going, I want that. And so she said, what happened to you over the weekend? And she said, I was baptized over the weekend. And Mom's like, you're just so different. And she said, that's what baptism does. It changes you. And Mom thought about it. And it's kind of a question that I think several people kind of wrestle with a lot of times. And it's, if there's no transformation in your life once Jesus saves you, were you really baptized in the name of the true Jesus? Because it is a noticeable transformation. You're not going to come out of the water glowing unless you were baptized in something real weird. But there is a noticeable transformation. I was baptized real young. My kids were baptized real young. But I remember the transformation that happened in my life, the things that I had to sacrifice in my life, the way that my lifestyle had changed because I was doing it aligned with Him and not aligned with my own ways, because I tried that and failed miserably. In John 4, I know one of the lady speakers earlier had talked about the woman at the well, which I see myself in a lot. You know, Jesus refused to succumb to her cultural or personal expectations. He spoke to her in truth, empowering her and savoring her and saving her. But that's what He used. He used truth. He didn't worry about offending. He just loved her. I think a lot of times we're crippled by, we call it butt hurt in my house. Am I allowed to say that on this, butt hurt? It's people that are super offended. And it's literally everybody you talk to. It's a very offended culture, which makes it very hard to evangelize for our kids. Jesus loved. He didn't let the what ifs come between Him and the work of His God. And we shouldn't either. We're big wicked people at our house, and when it talks about transformation, I can't help but think about it. If you've never seen Wicked, like you've only seen Act 1 in theaters, Act 2 is so much better. The music is so much better. But there's a song called For Good in it. And the lyrics are so good, but it applies here. But some of them are, who can say if I've been changed for the better, but because I knew you, I've been changed for good. And it's true. And if we can say that about people passionately, how much more should we be able to say that about the true Jesus? Maybe that's the reason that people are buying into their own customizable Jesus, is the fact that they don't hear enough about the real one, the good one, the things He's done for us. Maybe we're afraid to be uncomfortable and really experience Him. I'm not real sure. As you reflect on Jesus, you pray to the Jesus that you pray to, the Jesus that you praise daily, and you follow the real Him. Are you really following Him, or are you following a customizable version? In 2 Corinthians 11:4, Paul warns about this, and he says, suppose someone comes to you and preaches about a Jesus different from the Jesus we preached about. Or suppose you receive a different message of good news. Suppose it was different from the one you accepted earlier. And then Paul tells the church, you put up with those kinds of things easily enough. Would he say that to our church? Would he say that to us individually? Does your Jesus believe everything that you already believe? And maybe that's one of those things you go back to whenever you first became a Christian. Did your Jesus believe everything that you already believed? Because if that was the case, then what was the point of, what was He saving you from anyways? Are there parts of, this one got me, are there parts of His teaching that you've silenced in your heart because they're inconvenient to your lifestyle or your preferences? That's where my girls are at church right now. It's really hard for them to not buy into the whole push of women empowerment. I believe that there is so much power in encouraging our men. And when the girls were asking this at camp, several of you know Travis Creasy. Travis told one of them, he said, I'm sorry, do you think that men would get up in the pulpit on their own? And the girls were like, yes, I would. And he goes, that's because we're made different. He said, no man ever wants to stand up in the pulpit, pray, preach, or sing. He said, the only reason we do it is because some pretty girl goes, you'd be really good at that. And then they're like, put me on the list, you know. That's our job. We should encourage men to do this. God's got the rest, but we can't manipulate it to be our way, because that's just like saying, God, I see the way that you've laid it out, and it's good, but I think I can do it better. If you boil down what you're doing to customize your worship or your Jesus and it looks different than what's clearly laid out for us, that's what you're saying. And if your Build-A-Bear Jesus is not the real thing, then that's an idol standing between you and the real deal. Let's go to Romans 1, and this time we're going to be in verse 22. Paul says, they claimed to be wise, but they made fools of themselves. They would rather have statues of gods than the glorious God who lives forever. Their statues of gods are made to look like people, birds, and reptiles, which are all worldly objects, and in this time representing a whole bunch of different things. Anything that's keeping you from Jesus, the true Jesus, all of Jesus, is an idol. And that may be something that you need to sift through. So as you reflect, I'm letting you out a little early because when I talked to Alan, I thought he said 30 minutes. And I was like, 30 minutes, okay, yeah, we can do that. And then the first session I heard was like 48. And I leaned over to Mom and I was like, I need more material. So I will know from now on. But as you reflect, I'm going to let the real Jesus close us out because his words are so much better than mine. If you want to follow along, you can probably quote it from Scripture, but it's John 14:6 when he says, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Thank y'all so much. I'm going to put my shoes back on.